Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Talking About Birds, the only Cardinal podcast that, like arbitration, nobody leaves happy. My name is Nate Heininger, and I am joined by my co-host, Ben Samorka.
Hey, Nate.
If you have an idea for the opening bit, text or leave us a voicemail at 848-48-BIRDS. Hambone, how you doing? We are deep in 2025 at this point. How you feeling?
Deep? You think so? Yeah.
We're as into 2025 as you possibly could be right now.
That's a good point. Yeah, it's I'm loving every second of it. You know, 2025 is here. We've all been waiting. And it's finally here.
Wow. We did it. What a start. What a start to the year. What a start to this show. We got a packed show, Hambone.
I know.
But before we get to the copious amounts of Cardinal news and talking points, I something kind of cool happening this weekend that is Cardinal related that I wanted to talk about. So we as a podcast were invited to the winter warm-up festivities this weekend at Busch Stadium and Ballpark Village, which is the first time we've been invited at we're as full press, which is interesting. Press credentialed.
A joke.
We did do the blogger podcaster day, as you know, our listeners probably remember over the summer, and we've weaseled our way onto whatever invite list that gets us into these things. Now, you don't care about the show or the Cardinals, so you won't be attending this weekend as you're currently wearing your Colorado Rockies hat. But I will be there on Saturday. So I have not been to a winter warm-up since I was a child. Have you been to any of these?
I don't think I ever have been to a winter warm-up. I don't think my parents would have, had to take me. And then I think it just never really happened. So no, I mean, obviously I watched the videos and the interviews and everything like that, but I have no idea really what you're walking into, at least from like a presentation standpoint.
Yeah. I think it's not unlike a con, like a Comic-Con or anything like that, but for the Cardinals and very specific in the Cardinal area. You know what I mean? So there's booths set up all over the place with various merchandise.
Are you going to cosplay?
Yeah. I'm going to go as John Zalek.
That would be good.
No, I was thinking old timey reporter with the big flash bulb camera that's two pieces and I can put a little thing in my hat,
You should definitely try smoking a cigarette inside.
Yeah, I think that'll be great. But there's stages set up where they are hosting live Q&As and things like that. But as a member of the press, you get access to the private press interview room.
Yeah.
And, they've done a really good job of sort of setting expectations for what this is going to look like for me. A relatively small amount of people invited into this, and basically we've all seen them 1,000 times. There's going to be a player or a member of the Cardinal organization seated at a table with all of us, just sort of right there, open to ask questions. And there's food provided and stuff, which is nice. I'm going to try not to burn myself with hot cheese this time, but I make no promises. I'm batting 1,000 as far as burning myself in front of John Zalek comes. So we'll see. Low bar to clear, but I'm determined to clear that bar.
So are you going to say, Nady H from Talking About Birds here, Mr. Mozela, question for you. Are you gonna announce your credentials as you ask questions?
I have no idea. I don't know.
Are you going to ask questions, or are you going to sit back on your heels?
I'm probably going to be a little coward in the corner, is my expectations. Probably stumble over some chairs. Is my expectation.
I've seen you perform in the past as a scared cheese-covered boy.
Yeah, it's I'm very comfortable in that role though, and so we'll see. This whole thing is pretty new for me. But yeah, I don't know. Like, we'll see what happens, what kind of questions come up. I'm not quite sure how much time I'll spend in the interview room versus like going to other things. It's a 3-day event, but I probably can only be there Saturday. I might try to check it out on Monday as well. I've got some plans on Sunday. But it's pretty cool to be invited. I thought I'd run down. I got the interview list, and I'm just going to read them real quick. You get a chance of this is who I'll have the opportunity to at least be in a small room with on Saturday.
Creep.
Starting off hot, Drew Rahm, Chris Roycroft,
nice,
John Mazalak,
hell yeah,
Victor Scott II, Sonny Gray, Sim Robersi, Eric Fetty, Kyle Leahy, Thomas Sajaci, Steven Matz, Tink Hence, Brendan Donovan, Ryan Helsley, Ivan Herrera, John Jay, and Daniel Descalso are all set to be there on Saturday.
Some pretty good it's a nice mix of a couple of stars, a couple of coaches, a couple of young guys. That's a good mix. Victor Scott too knows we exist. That's, you got a leg in right there.
I know. I definitely intend to be in there for his conversation. Definitely John Mazalak. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I might just end up spending the whole day just hanging out in this room. I might be dipping in and out. I really have no idea what to expect, but I'm probably going to try to, do some posts and stuff while I'm there. So if you are not following us on social media, definitely check out Blue Sky or TikTok. I'm going to try to, do that there. Yep. Or if you're in the Bird Scored, I want to throw some stuff there too.
How are you going to handle the situation in which you are in the same tiny room with John Denton?
Well, it was you who was firing shots last week.
I don't think that could be proved one way or the other.
Personally, I'm a lover, not a fighter. So I will likely awkwardly stand in his vicinity and not say anything. But I don't know. It's probably my plan for most of these. I really don't know if any of our other podcast friends are going to be there. I know a lot like Daniel and Kelsey and them are not in St. Louis, so don't think they'll be there, but hoping to see some familiar faces of people that actually I know and know me, other than me just knowing all of these people because, like I'm assuming Gould and Wu and them will be there. So, yeah, I don't know. We'll see.
Cool. Well, do it well. Don't screw it up.
I make no promises, but I'm certainly going to be there. Which is, I mean, that is such a significant step above the last few years.
It is. We exist. We are real.
Yep. So, I might do some awkward selfies, ask some stupid questions. We'll see.
Yeah. While this is our first, it sounds like it'll probably be our last as you get us laughed out of the press corps, but that's fine. At least we've made it this far.
We don't want to be with the lame stream media.
Oh
anyway,
my God.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad that you're going as the sole representation. I'm sure it'll go perfectly. I'm sure you won't bump into anybody and nothing bad will happen.
I'm going to get just like flattened by Quinn Matthews or something. One of these monsters.
What if you injure a player by stumbling and bumbling into them?
Well, then they weren't fit to play anyway. You know what I mean? I did everyone a favor by taking them out in January.
Never take an L, Nate. Never take an L.
If you're getting tackled by Nate Heininger, what are you doing on a Major League Baseball
I've
team?
seen you take out innocent bystanders left and right, so I don't know if it's really their
deserving,
fault.
each of them.
Okay.
Whether I knew it or not.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that is, it's a great way to live your life. I think people find that charming.
Yeah, generally. So yeah, we'll see. It'll be again this weekend, and I'll try to post some coverage on our social medias, and then we'll talk about it on the show next week.
Sick. Can't wait. I'm excited for you, but also jealous and wish I could be there.
Well, maybe next year. We knew we might get invited to this based off of some previous conversations with the Cardinals, but we didn't really find out about it until roughly a week ago. So maybe next year.
Those flights were expensive.
Yeah.
So
you were just here for a week. Yeah.
Yeah.
But maybe next year we can both go, or I won't go and you can go next year.
Cool.
Because
Perfect.
I've been banned.
Yeah, we should not do it together. That's for sure.
No, it doesn't make any sense. That's not like our entire dynamic.
No.
Yeah. So what's going on in your world?
Oh yeah, well I put this on the our little intro banter topics, and I'm shocked that you have not seen this. I guess you're just not on baseball internet to the degree in which I have, but these Bryce Harper Instagram reels that he has been posting in the new year. You're completely unfamiliar with this.
I saw a picture of Bryce Harper holding banana bread.
Yeah.
And that's the extent of my involvement in this.
He's been going on posting reels and TikToks or whatever, and he is like making espresso and making various coffee drinks, doing baking in his kitchen at his house, and it's just him, and he's talking to the camera, and he's very like light and smiley, and is talking about his specific preferences on, like, he grinds his own coffee espresso beans. He makes his own. He's kind of just walking through it, and it's just like very gentle, pleasant baseball social media content driven by someone who comes off as a complete lunatic on the baseball field. And I find it very lovely. I don't know what else to say about it other than it's like this really calming social media presence by somebody who, you know, we've all seen Bryce Harper play for 10 years or so at this point. The guy's a lunatic.
Yeah, though the lunatic reputation, I think, has pretty significantly declined over the last like 5-6 years. You know, when he first came up, there was a lot like getting choke slammed by John Lackey or whatever, all that shit, which it mostly felt like it seemed like a lot of people being assholes towards Bryce Harper,
right,
for being so good and so young that they just were all like self-conscious or something and mad at him for being very good. And for the last several years, he's been like sort of the like almost boring prototypical, like we're just out here for the boys. We're playing a hard nine, and I want to play the right way, and you know, just so good to golly shucks, it's so good to be out here, sort of thing. And I mean, it kind of, to me, what this really highlights is just we are so starved for good baseball content. Not just like because it's the off season, but just like the league is so bad at marketing its players that Bryce Harper doing something as simple as making bread and talking about it is like, hell yeah, this is tight. Like, I love this. It's, I think if we could just get a little bit more of things like this coming from the league, it would be nice.
Yeah. And like, I don't think there's really an angle to it where I think like Bryce Harper can come off as a little like, you know, trying to please the Philadelphia fans. Like he wears cheesesteak socks to practice, and he's Mr. Philly, which I think is great, especially when you sign like a $20 million year, $300 gajillion contract. You know, you might as well ingratiate yourself to the city that you're going to be spending all that time in. But this is coming off like very earnest and very sweet. And I think maybe it is what you're talking about. There's like the access to players sucks. The MLB can't really market itself or its players or its stars. So then, you know, just giving one of those superstars of the game social media access, which of course he just has, and letting him do his own thing is really kind of fun and charming and easy. Yeah. I don't know. I just really like it. I thought it deserved attention, especially, you know, like you said, we are deep in 2025 right now, and there still has not been any baseball played or real baseball content. So if you need a methadone, maybe go look to Bryce Harper and him making espresso in the morning for a little thing to get you over, I guess, for the time being.
Yeah, I do need. I'm a very big fan of Bryce Harper. So I also like bread and coffee. So
That's why he's everything is. This is the content I need. It's coffee.
Him and I
it's baseball
are not
content
that much
around
different.
coffee. Yeah. Yes. Yes. That is. I think really what I was trying to round this all in is to say that you and Bryce Harper are really not that different.
Mm-hmm. You know, we're not so different, you and I.
You're both jacked Mormons. Both from Las Vegas. Superstars at your field.
Yeah.
What's your field?
I guess chatting with people who talk to you on a podcast on Wednesday afternoon.
There's no one better.
There's no one better.
No one better in the entire world. So actually, that makes you better than Bryce Harper because you could argue he's not really the best player in baseball right now.
I mean, I didn't want to say it directly, but I'm not going to argue against it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You got to stay humble.
Sit down.
Hope no one whacks out my mural.
Oh my God. Kendrick Lamar is on the pod.
All right, Hambo, we got ourselves a packed show.
I'm looking at the outline. I'm getting outlining anxiety right now.
I know. We do have some Cardinal news to talk about. And
I know. Also, we always do.
We always do. There's always something. And guess what? It's not about Nolan Arenado right now.
We're not even going to talk about him this episode.
It's going to be hilarious that I'm calling it now. We're recording on Wednesday afternoon. Something will happen with Nolan Arenado probably right after we get done recording.
I will refresh MLB trade rumors 2 times during this record just to make sure.
All right. Keeping your ear to the ground. But we're going to talk about some of the arbitration news and other things, but also, I was thinking about our last month of shows and our general ethos of this podcast. And I think rightfully so. We've been pretty sour about a lot of things. We've been a little frustrated about a lot of things. And I think that is reasonable given the current state. And as a podcast, we want to be truthful about the state of the Cardinals. But generally speaking, we really view ourselves as an optimistic podcast. We are fans of the Cardinals and I think sports in general from an optimistic lens. And so in order to kind of counterbalance the maybe some of the negativity that we've been leaning into over the last month, I thought it would be fun if we would highlight some of the really good things that did happen in 2024. So we're going to go through that. But first, let's dig into some of the news. Hambone, you want to kick us off?
Yeah, the Cardinals and some of their players are having those lovely, this time of the year, arbitration conversations. And we know how the Cardinals do this. We're curious to see if this changes when Mo and co are out the door. But it's they file and trial. If the player does not agree, even if it's off by $100,000, they'll go to trial. So that's just the way that it is. That being said, the Cardinals did come to an agreement with 3 players, all relief pitchers. Ryan Helsley will get a raise up to $8.2 million after his all-star performance, best closer or second best closer, whatever you want to call him, in baseball last year. Jojo Romero gets $2.26 million for next year, and John King is retained at $1.6 million next year. I think there's nothing too shocking in any of this. I think the idea that the Cardinals were able to come to a contract agreement easily with Ryan Helsley is probably the biggest point of news out of those 3 players. Like Jojo Romero is probably better than average, and John King is, a completely fungible piece of player property that, he had a good year last year. I almost added that to my positive things to talk about, but I just couldn't force myself to do it. Yeah. But Ryan Helsley, 8.2, obviously extremely affordable for one of the best closers in baseball. I guess ultimately disappointing that a contract extension wasn't reached. Now that could still always happen. But again, the club to be in good standing, or what we imagine good standing with one of their best players, is always good.
Yeah. I think I just hate anytime it goes to arbitration. Even though by all accounts, it certainly seems like a shitty thing across the board from the outside looking in, but it is apparently the players' union that is like the strongest in support of the arbitration process. So will always align with the players' union over the ownership group. So if it's the players' union that wants it, then I am supportive of it. But just from our perspective, it just always seems bad, and the players don't seem to like it on an individual level.
And that makes sense. But it's also like the reason that Vladdy Jr. got a $28.5 million contract when he's still on a rookie contract. But I do think it's one of those systems that it definitely benefits the Helsleys and the Vladdy Jr.'s of the world, and maybe not so much the John Kings and the Jojo Romeros of the world. And that's just kind of how baseball is, I guess, really. If you're a supreme talent, you're going to get paid. And if you're middle of the road or just not particularly great, you're just going to get less of it. And like you're talking about the fact that your employer has to basically sit down and tell you how much you stink while also retaining you just sucks.
Was it last year where we saw Corbin Burns like really go out there and blast the Brewers organization for how it was handled?
I mean, there are the stories and stories upon stories of this happening. Like Chris Bryant, particularly famous one. Now the Cubs also kind of held him down, and they did some service time manipulation, and then they fought him in ARB, and he, obviously ended up leaving, and
now he's having now he's on continuing his Hall of Fame pace on the Colorado Rockies.
You think he plays more than 50 games next year?
What a bizarre just run of out Cubs. It couldn't have happened to a better, more thoughtful team, but just truly surprising. I mean, that dude, 2016 era looked like the most can't miss future Hall of Fame level player, and here we are today asking if he will play 50 games for the Rockies.
I think the added layer to that is that it should also be recognized that the Rockies did not retain Trevor Story when they could have, and then traded Arenado to go give that money to Chris Bryant, who was clearly falling apart before they signed him to that long-term deal. The incompetence runs very deep over here. The Cubs, again, I'm very curious to see how this works out. But they're doing the same thing with Kyle Tucker, who's the big acquisition they just traded for. And I think I've seen a lot of people online, and I think I agree with this line of thought of like, you go get Kyle Tucker, go give the guy, if your plan is to retain him, to extend him, give the guy the $20 million in ARB, with a thought towards the future of, hey, we're trying to keep you, rather than trying to save, $1.52 million right now. There are situations where maybe some nuance, or it seems like there just lacks nuance or thoughtfulness.
Well, most organizations, as you said, the Cardinals, they do file and trial, and they just basically have a hard line. And you either accept it or you don't. And if you don't, we go to trial. Yeah. And I do kind of understand that to some degree, though, because if you start to add that nuance, I think you're going to find almost every time you submit something, you're going to, like, the players always want something more. And so then you'd have to start like, well, we really like you, so we will do the negotiation. And now you just add another layer of potential like insult to players. So keeping it just, if you don't agree, it's immediately going to trial, does seem like a fair approach. But it certainly feels like I think an average player would probably recognize why a team would bend a little bit for a Kyle Tucker versus themselves. Well, but still, these guys all think they're the best in the universe. So yeah.
I also think where I think the nuance would come from is that you can generally get an idea of what you think that player is going to file at, and put your number closer to what you think their number is going to be. Now, obviously, that's not going to work 100% of the time, but that would kind of, that would make it easier and kind of sweep that whole conversation under the rug. And I think some teams are just, they have their algorithms or whatever, their calculations, and they say, you get $6.5 million, not 8. That's how it is. And we're going to trial for that.
Yeah. Well, so as you said, the Cardinals had seemed to be pretty easy, at least, we don't know, but that relatively quickly with Helsley, Romero, and King. However, Nootbaar, Donovan, and Palante, all, after Helsley, all, much bigger impacts to the team, players that I think are considered pretty valuable. They have not agreed. So, I think there's still time, but it's likely going to an arbitration hearing for these guys.
Yeah. Yeah, there's always time in these conversations. It sounds like, according to John Denton, my boy, he reported earlier this week that the Cardinals are nearing a multi-year agreement with Brendan Donovan. Now, when you write it in that way, it really implies that this is going to happen. As of this recording, nothing has been announced yet, but it sounds like a multi-year deal is going to be reached there. We talked about this last week or maybe the week before. I think it makes a ton of sense. Just his defensive value, his offensive floor. He walks a lot. Also leadership and beardedness and hairdo. There's just a lot of
all important. Yeah. Well, so I saw this too, and I know details are thin right now, but to me, there's a very big difference between a contract that just buys out arbitration years and just settles this for the next 4 years versus adding any years of free agency into it. And so I didn't see, maybe you did, if it indicated that what's being negotiated is an actual extension that adds years into the contract.
No, I don't think anything like you said. It was pretty light on what is being reported. I think you can kind of assume that the Cardinals would try to get at least a free agency year when making a deal like this, because if not, why not just go through the arbitration process unless they just kind of want to streamline it going forward. But if you look back at what they've done, with this type of player historically, Paul DeYoung is the first one that comes to mind. They're going to try to get those ARB years under control and get at least a year. I'd have to think that they're trying to pull the same playbook with Brendan Donovan, which, he still has quite a bit of control left. Yeah. But that is my assumption, but we don't know yet.
Well, we talked about it a lot on a previous episode where we both agree that he makes a lot of sense as an extension candidate. And we've seen none of this in the recent, Cardinal front office. So I am glad to hear that these conversations are happening. I'm hopeful that they are with some of the other candidates that we talked about, but at the very least, an extension for Brendan Donovan would be cool. And I'm sure that is why he is also in this bucket of players that are not settled yet, because they're probably still negotiating.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, who was the last player the Cardinals, homegrown player the Cardinals extended? Not DeYoung, right? That can't be
DeYoung, or didn't Carmar get an extension and that went poorly?
I think it did. Yeah.
Matt Carpenter got an extension.
Yes.
That was even further ago.
Yachty obviously got those little 1 years.
Yeah. Yachty and Waino got their little.
Skeet us on Blue Sky if you have a better answer than that. John Denton also mentioned the Cardinals have discussed an extension with Nootbaar. Now that sounds a lot less committal than the conversation, or at least how it's being reported around Brendan Donovan. But I think this is another person who we talked about could make sense. Obviously, we'll talk about it more in a little bit, but everything about Nootbaar's game, kind of screams somebody who is adding value and somebody who should be retained and somebody who should probably get better if he can stay healthy, but he hasn't been healthy. So, maybe he's 26, be 27 next year. Maybe this is the right time to extend Lars Nootbaar before the breakout. And I don't mean breakout. I think all the things are there, all the tools are there, but actually showing up for
a full season.
Yeah. I couldn't be more on board with that.
Same, but that is the type of risk reward play that we don't see the Cardinals take as much. The few extensions we have seen from them have been on players who certainly appear to be like they've kind of already reached that level of performance and are going to be here for a while. Nootbaar, I feel like still has that potential of just completely flaming out, though. I agree with you. All the underlying metrics are there. Just the consistent injuries. At what point do the Cardinals, like if we have another season of Nootbaar with only like 350 to 400 at bats at the most, like, are you penciling him in 2026 as like another shot at a starting outfield position?
Yeah, I think I am. I don't know if, maybe I'm dumb for that, but yeah, I think I am. Like, there's just too much to like. He's not expensive right now. He is a brand ambassador. He is a international superstar. He's got a 100-watt smile. And when he's on the field, he's really good. I mean, I would hate to see this kid on another team. So yeah, I would. I would keep going back to the well.
Yeah, I think I agree. It seems to me like we're struggling to get the Cardinals. Who knows what the conversations are happening in the back room on this, and who knows what the players' intents are? Because it's one thing to say we think you should extend Mason Wynn, but Mason Wynn might be sitting there thinking, it kind of doesn't matter what you offer me. I'm not doing it because I want to hit free agency, right? This is a two-way street, and we always just assume like every player is going to want to sign a contract when that might not be the case. But that all being said, like there are far clearer, more obvious options for extensions on the Cardinals than Nootbaar, and so we haven't seen any of that from like the more obvious players. So to think they would jump all those guys and extend Nootbaar seems unlikely. Though I think I agree with you that like, his value is probably, hopefully, his value right now is as low as it's going to be for the rest of his career. Because I agree with you. If we get a full season of Nootbaar at healthy or predominantly healthy, I think it's going to be a pretty awesome all around year.
I think he's got all-star potential. And I like his game. I like watching him play. Like there's nothing I don't like about Lars Nootbaar. I guess the only thing I don't like is that he keeps getting injured. Yeah. But I'm hopeful he'll figure that out.
Well, people are injury prone until they're not.
Yeah.
You get that tag and then you have a good season and then it's all in the past, right? And it's not super uncommon for guys to come up and break themselves in the major league level multiple times before they figure out their conditioning and their balance of effort to not hurt themselves. So maybe that's the case with him. All right, we've got one other move, and then we can continue this positivity train here. You want to big news here? Was this the offseason move we've all been waiting for, Hambo?
Hey, we added a player, so beggars cannot be choosers. I think we all got to be excited about this. Bailey Horn was claimed off waivers from the Tigers of Detroit. They designated him for assignment. Cardinals picked him up. He is a relief pitcher. He was in the major leagues last year. So, what else could you possibly want? He's a small reliever. Not the biggest guy in the world. He pitched with Boston for 18 innings last year. He's been in the White Sox organization, the Cubs organization, obviously Boston, back with the White Sox, made the bigs, and then got picked up by the Tigers. Tigers let him go. He has an okay fastball. It sits in the mid-90s, which, who doesn't do that from a relief position anymore? The exciting thing about him is that he's got a really nasty slider. All of the metrics really like his slider. Again, it was only in 18 innings, so don't put too much stock into this. But from a stuff standpoint, he is a one-pitch pitcher out of the bullpen, right-hander, and he's got one hell of a slider and a fastball that should be just enough to keep people kind of off balance. So, we talked about it last week. The Cardinals had kind of taken this approach, just going and grabbing all the potential arms that could be impactful and throwing them in the bullpen in this menagerie of what potentiality, I guess, and
Menagerie of Potentiality.
And then add this guy to the pile.
Megalopolis 2, Menagerie of Potentiality.
That just came out of my mouth. I apologize for that. I don't really know what to say.
It's good. It's a cornucopia of
Ooh.
opportunity. Wow. Yeah.
I thought you were going to make me spell it, so I'm glad you didn't do that.
Looking at this guy's background, if you one
and
thing
his
that really
back end, am I right?
One thing that really does stand out is the K per 9. Pretty much his entire career in the minors, a 10 or higher. Really pushing up there in in 2022, over 51 and 2/3 innings, he had a 12.89 K per 9. Cardinals obviously chasing strikeouts. He got his major league debut last year with Boston and got torched. You mentioned 18 innings, negative .54 in 18 innings. Not great, but
his home run fly ball rate was over 30%.
So yeah, just giving up dingers left and right there, hitting taters out the stadium left and right. But but he's we've talked about it a lot. You mentioned it already. We like this style of bullpen building. Look for these guys with this high upside. He hasn't really put it together at any level other than striking out a lot of guys, but that is a good core skill to have, and maybe the Cardinals can help him make that final leap and stop giving up so many ding-dong dingers.
We're a development organization now, Nate.
That's right.
Haven't you read? Haven't you seen?
Oh, yeah.
We're doing it.
This is it. We've done it.
So go grab this guy and turn him into the next Ryan Fernandez or whoever else, or dump him, and we'll never talk about him again. It doesn't really matter. But this is smart. We like it. It's good.
Yeah, agree 100%.
But to be clear, I don't. This isn't like the most impactful move ever. Just it should be fine.
Well, yeah, we expect probably 5 more versions of this over the next couple months of the Cardinals adding either at major league level or some degree of minor league level more bullpen arms. That's what they've been doing for years now.
I misspoke. He is a lefty. I think I called him a righty earlier. He is a left-handed pitcher. So apologies to everyone in the Bailey Horn camp.
Apology not accepted.
Good name.
Bailey Horn is a great name. And one other interesting tidbit on it, there is the Boston, this is yet another deal. I mean, this isn't really a deal. They claimed him, but this is another. Scoop. Yeah, it's another interaction between the Cardinals front office and the Boston front office, or at least the Boston player pool. So I don't know. Maybe Heim was in on this, had something to do with it. Maybe not. But I thought that was worth mentioning.
Yeah. Yeah. You have to think that Heim probably had something to do with this, and you have to think that he probably had something to do with some of the acquisitions last year, and most of those worked out. We'll talk about one of them here in a minute, but I think this is all the Cardinals news we have right now.
Yeah. All right. So we just kind of compiled some storylines from 2024 that we wanted to revisit here as we get ready for 2025 to actually start. We're only a month away from pitchers and catchers reporting.
It's coming really fast. I can't believe it.
Yeah. And so we're mostly closing the book on 2024. But I thought it would be nice to look back and just talk about some of the highlights of the year and what went well. We're probably not going to be all encompassing here. We might miss your favorite story from 2024. So if you have anything, please throw it out. Maybe we'll read it on a future episode. Because I want to get some positive vibes going as we roll into the 2025 season. Hambone, why don't you kick us off?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of stories. I'm just going to pick out some of my favorite ones. One of my very favorite ones is the Ivan Herrera story. He posted a 127 WRC plus, over 72 games played with the Cardinals. He was the 5th most valuable position player on the team and obviously played less than half a season. There were many points this year where he was clearly the best offensive player. There were times when we were just saying, just put him up in the big leagues because he's the only one that's really hitting. And really, if you look across, I think every number looks better than I thought it was going to be him getting into the big leagues. I think the only knock on his resume from 2024 was it was a little light on power for a guy who I think you can project to have a little bit more power than he displayed just because he's done that in the past. But he had an ISO of only 127, which you'd really want that, especially for a guy who posted the numbers that he posted in the minors, something closer to 200. But that being said, he walked a ton. He did not strike out a ton. He ran the bases well. He was one of the best defensive catchers for the Cardinals. And then I think, just speaking like very anecdotally and watching him play, I think he has the ability to hit situationally. I think he has the ability to go the other way. He has the ability to grind out an at-bat. He's athletic, like watching him run the bases compared to catchers in the past, I think is very impressive. And I think, the kid's 24 years old. He took a massive step forward. He added, like I said, he was from a WAR and a value prospect. He was one of the better players on the team. Seems like he's going to have a long runway. I'm really hoping that Ivan Herrera is the starting primary catcher. And when he's not starting and when Pedro is catching, that he's DHing or he's affecting the game somehow. But I think however you look at it, he had a really nice, productive season.
Yeah. The only thing you could really ask for is more at bats, and the power side of it, I agree. But also the most like standard development process in baseball is like the young guy coming up, getting a feel for hitting, and power developing as they get older. He, like you said, he is still only 24, and he only had 259 plate appearances in the bigs this year. And so I think, focusing on approach, a 372 OBP and an over 300 batting average shows he's got a good plate approach, a good eye for the ball. And I certainly think we will see some power growth. I don't anticipate him being like a heavy power hitter, but I don't know, maybe some of those Yachty style seasons where you're hitting 280 with 15 home runs, like it could be there. Now he needs to work on his metrics around catching base runners are pretty low, pretty bad.
Yep.
So he was generally pretty good defensively, but he has some room to grow there. But all in all, like I don't know what more you look for from a 24-year-old catcher in such a small sample size. He kind of crushed it, and I am also very excited for him in 2025. I was the most exciting part about the Wilson Contreras to first base move to me was that this is clearly the Cardinals recognizing and prioritizing Ivan and probably to some degree Pages, but I'm really hoping for like a 70-30, 80-20 style split here between Herrera and Pages.
It seems very likely we will not be running 3 catchers next year, which is good. We'll only have 2 plus our catcher turn first baseman.
What are we going to do, Hamlin? You need 3 or 4 catchers on your 26-man roster.
Jimmy Crooks he'll be ready soon, so that that might happen.
I can't wait for us to have Wilson, Ivan, Pages, and Crooks all on the 26-man.
The Padres are mostly shortstops, so why don't we just be mostly catchers? I think that's fine.
Sure. Yeah, why not?
A couple of StatCast numbers I wanted to talk about with Ivan really quick. I think that are really exciting is that he had a max exit velocity this year of 112.5 miles per hour, which I think speaks to that power potential. Like if you can hit a ball over 110 miles per hour, that's not something that everybody can do. And that means that, that allows you to understand what like the top end of his exit velocity looks like. And a lot of times, not all the time, that leads to more balls going over the wall or at least more balls getting into the gap. So I think that's really exciting. And then looking at his expected batting average and expected slugging, basically right in line with his actual stats. So, he had a little bit of a high BABIP, batted balls in play, batting average of balls in play, but everything else looks legit. So I expect him to hit the ground running next year.
And even with that, Hambone, his WOBA, which was a 351, Woba, if it's easiest just think if it's a good on base percentage, it's probably a pretty good Woba too, if that makes sense. So he had a 351, which is very good. But his expected Woba was 366, which is nearing. I mean, that's like all-star level. Production. So in some ways, the underlying numbers would indicate that he got a little unlucky even. So I think like a little less batting average, a little bit more power, or what the numbers were really saying it probably would have had. So it's all adding up. And the fact that he's only 24, it's all adding up to, I think, should be a pretty exciting 2025.
Very exciting. Yeah, I cannot wait to see what he does and kind of plants himself in the top 5 in the lineup and hopefully hits.
Yeah. All right, let's talk about Sonny Gray.
I mean,
what more could you really ask for, right? Like this is the Cardinals doing something smart and it working. I mean, it wasn't the best season of his career, but kind of like everything with the Cardinals last year felt a little cursed. And so you can imagine like there's a little bit of that in there, but like, I don't know what more you could ask for than going and making one of your biggest free agent signings and him coming over and being arguably the best player on your team.
Exactly. I think that's all you need to say. The Cardinals spent the most money on him. He became the best player on the team. He obviously started with a little bit of an injury. That quad hammy thing kind of creeped up on him. And he started the year slow, and he had a dip in the middle of the year, but he led the team in strikeouts. He led the team in WAR. He was there 28 times. He's not the reason the Cardinals had the year that they did. But it's nice when you go out and get a guy and he does exactly what you paid him to do. The Cardinals don't have a recent history of that, but it's great to see, and probably, expect Sonny Gray to be the best player or one of the best players on the Cardinals next year too.
Yeah. His breaking ball in 2024 was in the 95th percentile in the league.
Yeah.
So pretty good. And, I think we've kind of tried to straddle the line between understanding why the Cardinals may want to trade Sonny Gray, but also being pretty happy to keep him on the team. He's here for at least 2 more years. If he's here, this could be a stretch here, Hambone, but I kind of feel like if he's here through 2025, he might be here through the rest of his career.
Yeah.
If he's 37 years old pitching for the St. Louis Cardinals, I suspect he's either going to be extended as a Cardinal or retire near the end of that. And he was so good last year. It's hard to imagine he seems to have a repeatable delivery, one that should age well. I mean, he's already, past the prime from an aging curve standpoint. And he just had a fantastic season. So I don't expect him to have the best season of his career anytime soon, but I think he should age pretty well. And I think I'd be happy with that. And as we've said, we think 2026 will hopefully be a competitive year for the Cardinals. And you would certainly be happy having Sonny Gray on that team, even if he's no longer. I mean, kind of hopefully he's no longer your number one, because that would indicate some growth elsewhere. But even if you do go into 26 with him as your best pitcher, he's pretty damn good.
I love that idea. Everything you said, I rubber stamp the shit out of that. I think that's awesome. I think, speaking of his current performance, we like to talk about fielding independent pitching because that is a very important stat when you're looking at the actual, what the pitcher had control of. His expected FIP, meaning, if you take everything into account of what he was doing, Sonny Gray posted the best expected fielding independent pitching of his entire career at 2.82 in his age 34 season. This is a guy who has remade himself multiple times. He has developed pitches multiple times. He has changed teams. This is the kind of veteran. This is the Waino type guy that you want working with Tink Hence, working with Takao Roby, working with Quinn Matthews, working with Michael McGreevy, and showing them that not only do you have to pitch, but you have to change with the league. You have to develop new pitches, and you have to work your ass off. I couldn't agree with you more. I think he'll age well because of those things. And the fact that he has already showed his ability to change when the league is telling him to change means that I agree. I think he will also age decently. I don't think he'll put up, almost 11K per nine for the foreseeable future. But even if you dip down, we know that he could be successful in a ground ball machine with a different shape repertoire. So fully on board with that. If he is the new old guard or whatever for the Cardinals, I co-sign that thought process entirely.
Yeah, and for what it's worth, his 30.3 K percentage in 2024 was the second highest of his career, and in the top 9% in baseball. So, even in 2023, he put up a 24.3%, and so it's a significant change.
I'm like, let Sonny Gray. He should get a couple of 6-day weeks this year. He should maybe skip a start. We should keep him sharp. But
that's kind of a conversation too at some point. Just the proliferation of the 6-man rotation. I think 2025 that is going to be a major storyline across all of baseball. The Dodgers are doing it. A lot of teams are doing that. I saw something this year, or it was 2024, is either actually surpassed or it's the closest it's ever been, where the average amount of rest for a starter in between starts was closer to 5 days than 4 days or something like that. So baseball is moving in that direction. Of course, I've long predicted the 13 bullpen arms, and that's all you need. But we'll get there in
very stupid prediction. I actually think the 6-man rotation makes a lot of sense for various reasons. And I also think that it can help. Baseball clearly wants the starter to be at the top of the chyron again. Sure. And I think allowing a 6-man rotation, hopefully that means that pitchers can go longer because they're getting an extra day of rest and they're more a part of the decision in the game. And then obviously you have one less bullpen arm. It relies on the starter a little bit more. So I think you're probably right. It's coming. And I'm fine with it.
I think that my prediction actually would come true, but I suspect the league will intervene with rules to prevent it to getting to 13 guys who all go 2 to 3 innings at a time.
Yeah, I just don't think that makes any sense. You are ignoring, if somebody has a bad day, you are ruined for weeks.
But you also can maximize the matchmaking and all of that, and as guys get more velo, more spin, I really think
you're implying that these guys are robots and that they can just throw 2 or 3 innings every other day for an entire season. You're also minimizing players like Sonny Gray. Why would you not want to get 6 or 7 innings from Sonny Gray? It's just foolish. But you're okay. Well, this was a fun chat.
See, the problem is that I can never, because I believe the rules are going to change and prevent it. So I cannot be right on this.
Yeah.
But I think that if true optimization would ultimately end up in that sort of framework.
I just don't think you're right. Why would you want less Tarek Skubal? It's stupid. But that's fine. Let's talk about somebody who would actually do quite well in this weird scenario that you're proposing. I hinted at him earlier, but Ryan Fernandez.
Yeah.
He started out as a Rule 5 pickup, turned into a key piece for the bullpen, never played in the bigs his career. He gave the Cardinals 66 innings and put up a 3.35 FIP, one of the best relievers on the team. And then what was really exciting was his slider was in the 94th percentile as far as pitch values in baseball this year. His fastball was pretty good, but he has a truly elite pitch and really, literally came out of nowhere. The team that had him originally, the Boston Red Sox, weren't even valuing him properly. And here we are. We have a player for the foreseeable future that appears to be pretty solid.
Yeah, I think there's a legitimate possibility that he is the closer for the St. Louis Cardinals at some point in 2025. Now, that is most, assuming trades and hopefully not injuries. But if you're looking at the pecking order right now, if you start to lose a Helsley and a Romero I don't think you go very far before you get to Ryan Fernandez.
Yeah. He's got the stuff. He's still really young. He's going to be 27 next year. But
it's sort of like peak reliever years, you know,
Yeah.
the mid-late. I mean, it's kind of peak for most players, but like this age range where you're starting to get into the like full adult strength too. I think it should be a good time for to have him in the bullpen.
And again, he was free. You just got him stuck up there. And it wasn't even one of those things where, oh man, we have to let Ryan Fernandez, take up a bullpen spot so that we can keep him. Other than I think I remember one dip in performance over the year, which he's a reliever, so that's going to happen. He was great and only took on a bigger role as the season went on.
Yeah, which is why we've said already multiple times on this episode, like we're supportive of this process of building a bullpen
For sure.
Because you go and sign a Keenan Middleton, and he gets hurt and never pitches for the St. Louis Cardinals. But you also go and get Ryan Fernandez for free, and you're like, well, between these two, one of these guys is probably going to be pretty good. And then you expand that even more, and you say, well, we got Andrew Kittredge, and so on and so forth. And the Cardinals had a very good bullpen in 24 overall. So same with the JoJo Romero, even they got him in a trade for Sosa, right? And that was sort of just trading like back end of roster pieces for, now a central part of the bullpen.
Yeah. Speaking of a center part of the bullpen, Ryan Helsley's season is worth talking about. Arguably, the most elite player at his position on the team. He's the first or second best closer in baseball, in my opinion. And it all came together last year. He did everything you could possibly need. He had 49 saves, 53 chances. He led MLB in that, set a team record with that. He struck out everybody. His walks were down from the year before. He gave up almost no home runs. He really didn't have to rely on the ground ball that much. It was just weak contact or swinging and missing. His average fastball velocity was at 99.8. We saw triple digits all year. This is just a guy at the top of his game, doing his thing. He's
got a fun intro. The stadium does cool shit when he comes in.
I've never been to Busch Stadium and seen a nighttime Ryan Helsley intro, and that saddens me. I would love to be a part of that, because the Rockies, they try to do it, but it's like Victor Vodnik coming in and they play like a Black Sabbath song, and the lights flash.
Then 3 weeks later he's in single A, and then 3 weeks later he's out of the league.
Victor Vodnik might be a guy.
He might be a guy.
You write that one down. He might be a guy.
No, I remember. They thought they had their closer, and then he got hurt, right?
Yeah. But you know what I'm saying. It's
probably a skiing accident or something.
Yeah. It's not like the Helsley intro, and I would love to witness that in real life. But yeah, he's an all-star. He is as good as they get. He should probably be traded, but or extended.
Just setting a Cardinal record for anything. I know like save potential. Like the Cardinals had a uniquely equipped year for 2024 to allow for this to happen, where they were just consistently in one-run games.
Yeah.
But I think it's pretty fair to say that like Ryan Helsley is a considerable reason why the Cardinals outperform their Pythag record by a wide margin, because 49 times he came in and sealed the deal. And he did blow a few, but that's going to happen. But 49 times the Cardinals had the game on the line, and he was on the mound, and they won.
And you look at, we talked about this at the end of 23 before going into 24. I think that Helsley not being available in 23 was a huge reason that team underperformed to the degree it did. It makes the final 3 outs, the final 3 innings, a lot harder. And when you don't have a guy who has been, again, one of the best pitchers in baseball doing it, it just makes it really hard. And then it waterfalls. And things go bad.
Well, this is an impossible thing to ever know, but you look at 23, you look at 24, fundamentally the same teams.
Yep.
Now 24 actually, had Sonny Gray. But for the most part, these are really very, very, very similar teams. And one wins 71 games and one wins 83. And one has Helsley for the whole year and one doesn't. It's hard not it's hard not to give at least some of that to Helsley, right? So yeah, we've talked about him all off season. I have such mixed emotions about this. I'm like, I think more of me wants them to extend him for 7 years. But the shrewd baseball decision making part of me is like, no, obviously trading him now is the right call, which doesn't seem to be the way it's going.
The thing is it hard to imagine him getting better?
No, I don't think so. You're like, this was probably a career year, but he also could do it like this again, plus or minus a little bit. But I'd be surprised if he exceeds any of these metrics.
He could also be a successful starter.
I think that's the more interesting. I would rather the Cardinals extend him and convert him to a starter, or at least try, than extend him and just keep him as a reliever. Especially in these development period. Why not go into 2025 with him as a starter if you have him for an extended amount of time? If you only have him for 25, then he certainly should stay in the bullpen.
Yeah, you're right, though. I mean, you try to turn him into a starter. If it doesn't go great, then you likely have one of the better closers in baseball that, sitting right there. So why not?
Until he throws a fastball and his entire arm ends up in the catcher's mitt too.
Yeah. Well, like you said earlier, you're injury prone until you're not. Maybe he has crossed the bridge on that. Maybe. But he is a pitcher, so probably
he throws
not.
So fucking hard though.
But he's big. He is big. Yeah.
And guys have done it. I mean, Chapman, Chapman's a freak, but he's been doing it for 15 years throwing that hard,
Billy Wagner, about to go into the Hall of Fame. He did it. Now we're talking about Hall of Fame level players, so maybe that's not fair, but
sure. Yeah.
Let's talk about somebody who's not going to go to the Hall of Fame, probably.
What a lead up. The 99% of baseball players. Yes.
Yeah. So Lars Nootbaar, we talked about him already. I was kind of looking at things that were really exciting about this year. And this one just stuck out to me, and I think it's worth shouting out. We know that Nootbaar has this high ceiling. We know that he walks. We know that he hits the ball hard. We know that he has got a good arm, runs the bases well, all those things. But I thought this was pretty amazing. The stat is a hard hit swing percentage, meaning that every swing you take, this stat is added to when you take a swing and the contact is 95 miles or above, basically like a swing efficiency metric. Sure. And obviously every swing you take, you want to be making hard contact. So the higher this is, the better you are. He was third in MLB last year. Number
Pretty
one,
good.
Juan Soto. Number two, Vladdy Jr. Number three, Lars Nootbaar, and number four, Shohei Ohtani.
Nice. I was going to say Judge maybe, but Ohtani, yeah.
I think Judge swings and misses a little too much to be that high on this, but obviously those are three generational players and Lars
Nootbaar. Yeah. I mean, four, there's the top four, three of them are Hall of Famers.
Yes.
Probably almost right now. Vladdy has some more work to do.
Yeah.
But Soto and Ohtani are as close to locks for their age as you possibly can get.
There are a bunch of other stats. He walked at an almost 13% rate last year. Like I said, he hit the ball hard. Everything went well when he was actually playing. But this is kind of what I was talking about earlier, where I just think if he can stay healthy, if he can be consistent, he could be. I'm not saying he's going to be Juan Soto or Ohtani or any of those guys, but his offensive floor is super, super high. And I think, the only thing that is keeping him away from the likes of those guys is that his launch angle is a little too low.
Yeah.
If he could get the ball in the air a little bit more, we could look at a real 30 home run threat. And then, of course, the health.
Sure. Yeah, and the thing with Lars, it kind of feels like he's been around for a while at this point, and to some degree he has. But when you look at his overall, career, he doesn't have that many, games at the major league level. I say that to say that there's still plenty of room for growth. His profile as it stands is good, but like you said, if he could, start to lift that launch angle or something, he's still young. You could totally. He really hasn't had like, a full year of just playing every day and getting that chance to grow. He put up 503 plate appearances in 2023 and only 400 in 2024. So like, what does 600 look like from Nootbaar? 650. And what does that do from a development standpoint?
If I could buy stock in Lars Nootbaar, he would be the one that I would be trying to get in on the ground floor right now.
Yeah. Yeah. Expected WOBA last year, 355. Pretty good.
Every way you look at it, he has the best chase rate in baseball. There's just so much. There's so many interesting things about his game, but you got to see it.
Yeah, he's not the fastest guy, but I'd be interested to see him run a little bit more too. I
don't know if that gets him injured again. I want to just keep that bat in the lineup.
That's a good point. All right, I don't think we've gone too far in this conversation without talking about, I think, arguably the biggest thing that went well in 2024. I think arguably franchise defining to some degree is the what I'd say is the cementing of Mason Wynn as the shortstop of today and tomorrow and hopefully for the next 15 years, right?
What did we say? But early 2024, before it was projected, we were talking this guy could be Rafael Furcal, and we were kind of talking out of our asses, and the sky was a little high on that, but he plays 150 games in 2024. Hits 15 home runs, get nice average. He steals a couple of bases. He's an above average offensive player. He runs the bases extremely well, and he is a lights out shortstop with an absolute cannon for an arm. He set a record from a shortstop throw this year. I think it was over 101 miles per hour, something like that. Kid is 22 years old. He is your leadoff hitter right now.
Yeah.
I mean, what if this is his first year in the bigs, even if he takes a step back next year because, the league adjusts or whatever, this is your player of the future. This is your extension candidate. This is your potential face of the franchise. Number 0.
Yeah.
This is the guy.
Yep. He one thing I love too, as a 22-year-old, he had a 17.1 K percentage, which is really, really good, especially for his age. Walk rate a little low, but that's okay. He goes up there swinging. But I think all of this could get better. And you talked about max EV earlier with Yvonne. I think we said it was 113 miles per hour, maybe 112. Mason Wynn hit a ball at 111.1 miles per hour.
It doesn't even look like there's enough guy to do something like that.
Yeah. So he can hit it hard. Now, I'm not projecting a significant power increase for this guy, but I would have, if I was a betting man, I would have bet on Mason Wynn hitting 6-7 home runs in 2024. And the fact that he got to 15 in his rookie year, and we see some of these max EV numbers, he's a guy who gets better and better and better. I mean, we could be looking at a 20 home run, 30 stolen base season out of him on top of elite defense. I mean, this is the dude, right?
It's however you slice it. Yeah. I mean, he'll get a little stronger and he might slow up a little bit, but getting those power numbers and his approach and just understanding the league more, I think 20 home runs, is definitely in his wheelhouse. I mean, there's just nothing that you can say about him that's negative. I think another thing to talk about, and this is very narrative-y, but he played 150 games last year, by far the most of his entire career. And there were moments where the Cardinals were saying that he was in over his skis as from a usage standpoint, but he kept doing it, and he didn't falter. He didn't crater his season. There's just everything from makeup to play to there's just everything I love about this dude. He's incredible.
Yeah, I agree. To your point, in 2023, he played about 140 games across the different levels, and then 2024, 150. Playing at a major league level, though, is a different level of exhaustion compared to the minor leagues. So you could certainly see him being the type of guy that's doing 160. I think also near the end of last year, there was a little bit of like, well, let's just rest guys just to, we're not, it's over.
We don't need to kill Mason Wynn for a fourth place finish or whatever.
But if we're in a hunt, you get the sense that dude's playing every single game. Yeah,
absolutely.
Another one that I wanted to talk about, and one that may be a future long-term partner to Mason Wynn up the middle. I've talked about him a lot, but I cannot. I just continue to be excited about JJ Weatherholt, who was drafted last year. Cardinals got him 7th overall. The 2024 draft class was kind of interesting. There really was no like perfect candidate for first overall. At one point, Weatherholt was considered as maybe the first overall pick, but some injuries led to him falling a little bit. But pretty much immediately after the Cardinals drafted Weatherholt, his stock started to rise again. And you can see why he was early tabbed as maybe the first overall draft pick. And even though it's 7th overall, which is very, very high, it is already starting to look like a steal for this guy. He's still young. I don't want to get ahead of myself here, but in a similar vein to a Mason Wynn, this looks like a guy who's going to come to the major leagues pretty fast and do everything well. He's probably not going to have any single like double plus skill, but he's probably going to be plus across the board. And I think it'll be a lot of fun to see him wherever he slots in, third or second or wherever. I think we're going to see him in 2025, and I think he's going to be a fixture of the Cardinals for the foreseeable future.
This is the highest pick the Cardinals have ever had until their upcoming pick, which will be even higher. But we said it 1,000 times. They can't screw this up. You don't get to pick this high this often, and you really need to nail it. It looks like they nailed it. It looks like they have their second baseman of the future or a third baseman. There's even some scuttlebutt about him playing center field because he is that athletic. So we'll see how it maps out. But this is a guy who is projected, who could hit 300 at the big league level and have an on-base percentage around 400. The power might come, the stolen bases might come, but he's a hit tool guy who's got crazy athleticism. And, again, we're talking about putting bets on next year. I think it's highly, highly likely he impacts the big league club in 2025. I almost guarantee it, unless he gets injured or something really goes sideways. I think he'll be here.
Yeah, and I don't even think it's going to be a thing of like the Cardinals rushing him to the majors. He just seems to be that polished coming into the league.
Yeah, it's very exciting. And, him and Wynn up the middle, with all this speed and defense and power potential and on-base potential, and Wynn, the superstar shortstop, hitting on the right side, JJ Weatherholt hitting on the left side. It could be really, really fun.
Could be a lot of fun. Yep. All right. We gotta keep it. I feel like we could just sit and talk about this fun stuff all day. We got a couple more.
Two quick ones. I wanted to throw in an honorable mention to Matthew Liberatore. And I'm saying this is an honorable mention because he didn't really have a great year. But again, I was digging around and found some really exciting numbers, so I thought they were worth talking about. Liberatore's breaking stuff went into hyperdrive last year, according to Fangraphs Stuff Plus, which basically just looks at how nasty a pitch is based on movement, velocity, all kinds of metrics that are brought to you by StatCast. He had the 23rd nastiest slider in all of baseball, and his curveball was rated 6th. So those are 2 pitches in the top 25. That puts him, as far as his curveball is considered, puts him in the same range as Framber Valdez and Tyler Glasnow. I think that if he can find a way to locate those 2 pitches, and if he uses his sinker, which is his best fastball, there is a potential that Liberatore can somehow turn into a solid major league pitcher. You look at the way Framber Valdez pitches, and that's throwing that nasty curveball over and over again. Maybe there was a path to Liberatore kind of unlocking what prospect people saw in him when he was with the Rays and where this is. But both of those pitches took a huge step forward, and they are some of the 2 best pitches in baseball. It's kind of amazing.
I mean, you start there and you can see where it could go. And there is, like you said, there's a reason why he was a top pitching prospect not that long ago. And I am determined to someday be able to say the Cardinals won the Arena trade.
It might be next year. They leaned into those pitches.
Yeah.
And the last thing I want to bring up, I think it just, as we're being positive, Tommy Pham coming back, remembering his grand slam and his return, pinch hit grand slam to beat the Texas Rangers 8-1. We all remember this. It had to be the highlight of the season. The Cardinals traded to get better. It didn't work out, but for a moment there, it really felt good.
I think that was the highest moment of hope in the regular season that we had last year.
Absolutely.
The Cardinals bought. We liked the trades that they made to buy. They could have done more, sure, but what they did do, we really liked, still like. And Tommy Pham pinch hit grand slam to win the game.
Incredible.
It didn't really go well for Pham much after that, but we'll always have that moment, and it was a ton of fun. And I think that is a good reminder, too, that even when a season is not necessarily the way you want it to go, there's all these little moments of fun throughout it. And we are really looking forward to 2025. And I think, a lot of everyone we talked about here is with the team, at least right now, going into 2025. So there should be a lot of fun to be had in 2025, even if it's another playoff missing year.
Yeah. Hell yeah, brother.
Hell yeah, brother. And with that, we want to remind everybody that this show is listener supported on Patreon, patreon.com/talkingaboutbirds. If you enjoy the show and want to support it directly, the time and effort we put in to bring it to you every single week, and maybe help Ben pay for some flights to come and do more on the ground reporting, consider joining that Patreon, patreon.com/talkingaboutbirds. Supporters of any level get access to our private Discord server. It's the Bird Scored, tweet, having a good time in there. And there are other perks and benefits and whatnot. Check it out on the page. We also appreciate anyone and everyone that takes the time to leave us a review on their favorite podcast platform, either just selecting like the stars or actually going in and writing something. Both are really legitimately helpful. So thank you to everyone who has done that. And of course, please tell your friends. Now's a great time to get into the show as we ramp up for the 2025 season. Hambone, where else can people find us online?
You can follow us on Blue Sky, Talking About Birds. We're on Instagram. You can see us on TikTok as well. The show is available to listen to on Spotify and YouTube, so subscribe and like and do all that stuff there. If you want to find the podcast, find our YouTube page, find where to buy our t-shirts, anything like that, you can go to talkingaboutbirds.com. Of course, you can email us thoughts, questions, ask Nate if he has made any pizza recently, at talkaboutbirds@gmail.com. The email
Did
is
you not get that Detroit style I mailed you?
gmail.com. And of course, you can call us and leave a voicemail or send us a textual message to 848-48-BIRDS. That is 848-482-4737.
I wrapped a full Detroit style pizza in newspaper, slapped your address on, and put it in the U.S. postal box.
Did you? New address or old address?
Oh, damn it.
Yeah.
Well, you still, Benny Two Homes over here. You can just go back to the other house, right? And and just scoop it up there.
We were actually painting the kitchen last night. I did not see any stinking, rotting pizza on the front porch, but maybe I need to double check.
I'll send a couple more.
Maybe we got porch pirated.
Oh, God. Yar. All right. There is some
Stupid.
little bit of league news we got to get through. You want to run us through this?
Yeah, we can go quick. I know we're going long on this show. The Dodgers, Padres, and Blue Jays reportedly are finalists for Roki Sasaki, the Japanese phenom. His posting window closes on January 23rd and actually is officially open today on Wednesday as we are recording right now. So news could happen at any moment. This is probably a good time to go refresh MLB trade rumors before we hang up the call. But that is happening. My money is on the Padres, but we'll see. I'm really just rooting for not the Doyers, but that'll happen very soon in the next week.
Yeah, it's kind of the least surprising thing ever that the final three are the Dodgers, Padres, and Blue Jays, because the Dodgers are always a finalist. The Padres are consistently a finalist, and the Blue Jays are just always hanging on.
They're trying.
They always make their way into the finalist camp. Maybe they'll cross. That's who I hope the most for this. But. Mostly because we won't have to see him as much, because I believe that Sasaki will very likely be the best pitcher in baseball in the next 2 years. So I'm terrified. He's
a bit of a glass cannon. I want you to be right, because I think that would be more fun, but we shall see.
Yeah, I mean, that is the big concern about him. And apparently his velocity was down a little bit in 2024. So there is some concern that he's going to need Tommy John. And obviously that it would be a big dent to my 2-year theory. But so if it's not in the next 2 years, if he does need major surgery, I still think the stuff when he comes back from Tommy John, he will be the best pitcher in baseball. Yeah. He is so good, and I don't think the league is fully prepared for the type of stuff that he throws.
Well, we'll see. Let's go Blue Jays. Yeah. Speaking of bird teams, the Orioles have signed Andrew Kittredge, Cardinal great, to a 1-year, $10 million deal. I think that this is newsworthy to us because former Cardinal, and I was making my impassioned plea for David Robertson next week. The Cardinals wanted to get Andrew Kittredge on $10 million. I'm guessing they're not going to get David Robertson around $10 million.
Yeah.
But good for Kittredge. He's on a team that is probably going to the playoffs. And $10 million
might impact the one of the dream trades that everyone has had is the Orioles needing either Fetty and or Helsley or both, and so it's one less spot in that bullpen, but every team is made better by Helsley, so
there's no team in baseball that could not use Ryan Helsley.
Yeah, they could still do it, but when you do see them spending money on the bullpen, you think, well, maybe they're less likely to trade.
Yeah. The Blue Jays did sign somebody. They got Jeff Hoffman to a 3-year deal that guarantees him $33 million. Seems likely that they will convert him back into a starter. If you remember, that's how he was drafted as and failed as a Rockies prospect. But I saw an interesting story. We were talking about Bryce Harper earlier today. Apparently, Bryce Harper was coming back from injury and did a simulated game against Jeff Hoffman, noticed something at Jeff Hoffman's stuff, and 2 weeks later, he was in the big leagues with the Phillies, and then the guy goes on to turn that into $33 million. So pretty cool for him. Nice to see the Blue Jays land somebody. But
it's also guy. It shows you how lucrative a season and a half of quality relief can be, really, especially if they project you to be a starter.
Yeah. Joe Kelly, former Cardinal legend, geez, I can't speak anymore, announces his retirement if the Dodgers don't sign him.
Same. If I'm not signed by the Dodgers, I quit professional baseball.
Yeah, I get it, and I know Joe Kelly's a bit of a silly man. He's kind of a kook. He's made about $60 million in his career, so he doesn't really need anything. But I still just find it insane that you would just completely destroy any leverage that you might have, your agent might have in negotiations to say something like that.
Yeah, like a public ultimatum to an organization that does not need you.
That's what I was just going to say. They do not need Joe Kelly.
Yeah, like he is good, and I think would be good on any team, but I don't know. It's funny. It's very funny. Like it's like me screaming to like the U.S. government, like, give me $1,000 or I quit. Like quit what? And like also you don't need me. So I don't know. It's just it's David screaming at Goliath. Except for David has already made, half a whole lot of money.
Yeah. Major League Baseball indefinitely bans the Yankees fans who interfered with Mookie Betts during the World Series. We were talking about this in the Bird Scored. I think it makes sense. These guys are obviously clowns, attacking my guy Mookie, which you don't like to see. But they're out.
Yeah. I frankly was a little surprised at the severity, simply because were wealthy people who own high value season tickets. So I'm always surprised to see consequences come to people like that. But I was frankly glad to see it. You cannot. I mean, they like bragged about it and had pre-planned doing it. So it's about as clear a flagrant violation of rules and a dangerous one that I'm glad the Yankees were just like, no, sorry, bye. Surely someone else will buy these tickets.
Yeah. Very, very stupid. That is all the league news I have for today. I am checking Twitter and checking MLB. There's been no Arenado news since you tried to curse us at the beginning of this. So we are good to close the episode.
Okay. So we're going to end this episode with another version of Who Charted. So we've been doing, we've been leaning on positivity this episode, and I thought it'd be kind of fun to look back at arguably the most successful or the best Cardinal team of this century. Based off of Pythagorean, Ben, what do you think was the best team of this century?
Probably 04.
You would think so. And that was the first one I looked at.
Yeah.
But in 2013, the Cardinals had a Pythag of 101 and 61. Their actual outcome was 97 and 65.
Yeah.
I believe the 2004 team was like 99 or 100. So right there. But from Pythag, the 2013 Cardinals were the best Cardinal team of this century, which is surprising when you think about the MV3 years. But if you go back to 2013, like if you remember, they were roundly considered the best team in the NL, and the Cardinals Red Sox World Series was sort of hailed as like these are the two best teams in baseball playing against each other.
Right.
And while we all have embarrassing memories of the 2013 World Series, the Cardinals did win two of those games against the Red Sox. It just, went
David Ortiz.
David Ortiz. So I want to see how much you can remember about the 2013 St. Louis Cardinals.
God. All right.
Ben, who led the team in home runs?
Who led the team in home runs? I want to say Carlos Beltran.
You are correct.
Ooh.
Beltran had 24 home runs. This was not a power-heavy team.
I thought it was higher than that, but all right.
No. The team total in 2013 was 125.
Wow. Light hitting.
Yeah. All right. Who led the team in OPS plus?
OPS plus. Oh, it's one of the Mats. I'm going to go with Matthew Carpenter.
You were close.
Oh, damn it.
It is Matt Holliday.
Damn it.
With a 142 OPS plus. I do think Carp was 140.
Real? Oh,
Yeah. So
on.
you had it. You just picked wrong of the two.
Yeah. Those Mats, they were killing it.
Yeah. I mean, that was the value of this team. Not a lot of power, but just everybody had very strong offensive profiles.
Yeah.
And then the pitching was very, very good. So, okay. Who led the team in stolen bases?
Led the team in stolen bases. That is one that I don't know. Who was the speedster back then? Well, it wasn't either of the Mats or Carlos Beltran, so take them out of the equation. Is Colton Wong doing his thing at that point, or is my timing off? I'm gonna. Damn. Yeah. I'm going to say Colton Wong.
No, it is not Colton Wong. It is actually John Jay.
Oh, damn.
All rise. Member of the coaching staff. He had 10.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. So this was not a power hitting team nor a fast team.
But good.
But good. But good. I wanted to run down OPS plus for you real quick. Matt Holliday at 142. And then Matt Carpenter at 140. And then Yachty at 129.
Oh, yeah.
Matt Adams at 129.
Big city.
And Alan Craig at 129.
Yeah.
Then Beltran at 127. John Jay at 100. And then you start getting into below. But, that's 7 guys all in the lineup, all 125 or above.
Yeah,
and so you can
awesome.
see where that's where the offensive power came from. It's sort of the best version of how we've seen the Cardinals built in the last 2 decades, really,
Right.
is that it's like everybody, you're going to have a couple guys maybe at star level like Matt Holliday with a 140, but if you can just have everybody around a 125, you're going to win. You're going to score enough runs to win games.
Right.
And then also you got to have good pitching too, which we're going to go into now. Who led the team in innings pitched in 2013?
I want to say that's the John Lackey year. I'm going to say John Lackey. I think that was the year he shoved.
No, it is Adam Wainwright.
That should have been. That's a smarter guess. Yep.
It is a smarter guess because it's the accurate guess.
Yeah.
No, John Lackey was not 2013. John Lackey, I think, was 2014 and 15, or was it 15 when they traded for him? And then, or is either they traded for him in 14 and 15 was his big year.
Oh, yeah.
Or 15 and then 16.
Damn.
But no, so this is pretty incredible, Hambone. Adam Wainwright, 241.2 innings the regular season.
Can you imagine that happening in today's game?
With an FIP of 2.55.
Wow.
Yeah.
And he did not win the Cy Young, of course.
No, he came in second.
Damn.
Yeah.
That's a crazy year.
Incredible year, 5 complete games, 2 complete game shutouts.
Wow.
Yeah, just, all around incredible season, all-star, second in Cy Young, got some MVP votes, also won a Gold Glove because, of course, arguably his best season,
Yeah.
There may be some different ways you could slice and dice it, but 219 strikeouts, just an incredible season.
Wow. Amazing.
Peak Adam Wainwright.
We love a Waino, folks.
We do. All right. How about saves? Who was the closer for the majority of the year in 2013?
I think that was Jason Mott, right? Or was it Ryan? Wait, why can't I think of his name? Ryan Franklin. No, it wasn't Ryan Franklin. Wait. Oh no.
This is peak sort of roulette or shuffle for the bullpen for the Cardinals during this era.
Was it Salas that year? Or Mujica? It could have been Mujica. Oh shit. I'm gonna say Edward Mujica.
You got it, Hambone. I really didn't think you'd even pull the name.
Wow, there we go.
Let alone land on him. Edward Mujica, 37 saves.
Yeah, I will never forget that changeup. It was impressive.
Yeah. Yep. All right, and my last one for you. Who led the team in K per 9 minimum 50 innings pitched. So bullpen guys are in there, but none of the like super small sample size bullpen guys.
Wow. I want to say somebody like Tyler Lyons or Mitchell Boggs or somebody like that.
And that's a name I haven't heard in a long time.
There was this lefty that was really good for like 1 or 2 years, and then he went to become a Pirate. Or was Rosenthal around? Oh, this is a toughie. Was Rosenthal there but not closing games out? The timing kind of lines up in my brain. Yeah, there's this pitcher who's a left-hander, tall guy, who's a ton of strikeouts around that time period, and I just can't think of his name. So I'm going to say Trevor Rosenthal.
You got it again. Very good.
Okay.
I think you're thinking of Kevin Segrist.
Yes, I was thinking of Segrist. Thank you.
Which I benefit by looking at the list of pitchers from 2013. I couldn't pull that either. But yes, Rosenthal, 12.9 K per nine.
Wow.
And it was over like 65 innings. This was the ascension of Rosenthal. He just didn't, the way the pecking order of bullpens go. He didn't get to like be the main closer, though I do think it was, if I remember correctly, by the end of the year, he was the closer.
He took over for Mujica.
And then, was pretty central to the Cardinals for quite a while after that.
Wow. Fun year.
Very fun year.
I obviously remember that year better than I expected to. So I guess that's cool.
Yeah. So some of the other standout pitchers, Lance Lynn, this is sort of peak quality Lance Lynn. He threw 201 innings with a 3.2 FIP. Shelby Miller, 173 innings. Joe Kelly, 124 innings. Westbrook, Rosenthal, Waka was there for a short time. This was really like, you had Waino, Holiday, and Carpenter kind of there as like star and Yachty there as like stars. And then just a whole lot of guys that played really, really well. And the team really played well together. And it's by Pythagorean, this is the best Cardinal team.
Wow.
Of the last, I didn't go into like the 80s and whatnot, but
it's a funny look. I'm just looking at the Baseball Reference now. It is a funny looking team. Ty Wigington was there. Sugar Shane Robinson was there. Yeah, that was a fun year.
Yeah, Carp led the team in WAR. He kind of got buried in these by the rankings, but he was the best overall player on the team. So yeah, just a really solid year.
Yeah, that's a lot of fun.
Yep, and maybe we'll get back to that in a year or two. Hey. I certainly think so. Yeah, because we are optimists.
Yes, we enjoy stuff.
We do be liking those things.
Okay.
And if you be liking these things too, again, I'd recommend checking out our Patreon. So we will be back next week as we march along into the 2025 regular season. If something happens with Arenado in between this and the next episode, we love you. Good luck. And I will be at a winter warm-up this weekend. So if you're there and you see me around, come up and say hello. I'll be awkward and it'll be great. So
amazing.
Yep. So until next week, go Cardinals.
Okay. Thank you. Bye.
What's up?
Yeah.
I feel like I could join Stomp.
That is what I'm saying.